To begin, just sit a little straighter than you may be naturally. This is the time of day where falling asleep is the enemy. And you might just gently close your eyes. And just take a few deep breaths. And just feel the weight of your body resting on your seat. Feel the heaviness, pressure, heat or cold. And the moment you notice that you're thinking, just come back to the raw sensation of sitting here. And see if you can feel your body closely enough, just the raw sensations, so as to surrender the image you have of its shape. See if you can let it resolve itself into a cloud of sensation, so that you don't feel a knee or a hand or a shoulder or a back. You just feel points of sensation arising and passing away. Now also bring your attention to the sounds in the room. Just let your mind rest as this open space in which sound and sensation continually appear. Okay, well now you can open your eyes. And I just want to reflect on what we just did there. I mean, first, notice the sense that something has changed when you open your eyes. So like your eyes were closed, you felt like you were in your head paying attention to sensations in the body and sound. And now we've opened our eyes and we're all back in the world together. Well, this is a kind of illusion. The world you see with your open eyes is also the same place you were feeling sensations and hearing sounds. The only place you can notice anything is this space of consciousness. And for those who don't know how to meditate, who've never learned this capacity for mindfulness, the normal experience, the experience we all have been led to expect as to be compatible with our psychological health and our functioning as human beings, is to be thinking more or less every minute of our lives and telling ourselves a story about our experience, remembering the past, anticipating the future, worrying over something that just happened or may yet happen, regretting something that just happened, forming various goals in mind and seeking them, feeling desires arise and feeling no alternative but to seek to gratify them. And all of this is being mediated by thought in this space of consciousness. And then we fall helplessly asleep each night and then get up the next day and do it again. Or we don't fall asleep each night because we're so busy thinking about what just happened or what may yet happen. And the degree to which thought is structuring our experience in each moment and creating our emotional lives, or creating our reactions to everything, is very hard to notice because we've never noticed thoughts themselves arise as objects in consciousness. We're identified with each next thought that appears. And so the first thing you encounter when you try to meditate, and for the longest time, this is the great obstacle to meditation, is that it's so damn hard to pay attention to anything because you're thinking every moment of the day. So, and these thoughts sneak up on you. You think, well, I'm supposed to be meditating here. Okay, so I'm going to pay attention to my body. He just said, notice the sensations in the body. And okay, now I'm paying attention to sounds. Okay, well, now why am I doing this? And the conversation continues even while you're trying to just do this very simple thing of noticing sensation in your body or noticing ambient sounds. And mindfulness is the tool by which you can break that spell. And the way this happens ultimately is you begin to pay close enough attention to raw sensation that there are periods where you're deeply connecting with just what it's like to feel the sensation of vibration, say, or to clearly hear a sound impinge upon your eardrum, without, for that brief span, having it occur through the veil of thought. And when you get a little bit of concentration in that regard, then you can begin to notice thoughts themselves arise as objects in consciousness. Just like you can hear the sound of my voice, you'll hear the sound of your own voice in your head, or you'll see an image arise. And then the difference, this introduces a very powerful and important difference in your conscious life. The difference between noticing a thought as a thought and being identified with a thought because you haven't noticed it arise as an object in consciousness. And the difference between being identified with thought and being mindful of it is total. Okay? The difference is, one, in the first case, you helplessly live out the implications of the next thought. If the next thought is an angry thought, or a thought of self-judgment, or a thought of worry, well, then that is you for as long as that train continues, right? Because one thought engenders another and creates, if you have an angry thought, if you remember some conversation that you had that was incredibly frustrating and you're angry at somebody, and that sneaks up on you and you're not aware of it as an object in consciousness, you become angry all over again. And then you start thinking of all the things you should have said or would have said or will say next time. And again, this is all a conversation you're having with yourself, right? Which it doesn't make a lot of sense. You remember the conversation, and yet you're rehearsing it to yourself. And there's apparently no capacity to get bored with the things we say to ourselves. Like if I was telling you the same thing over and over again, on the third or fourth time, you would say, what, does he have brain damage? Why is he saying this over and over again? But if you pay attention, you will say the same thing over and over again to yourself. You'll never detect that you're in the presence of the most boring person in the world. Right. So a capacity to be mindful it gives you a choice. It is actually true to say that you, at that point, can decide, well, how long do I want to stay angry for? Now, if you can't be mindful, well, then you'll be angry for as long as you'll be angry, and you'll do all the things that anger will seem to dictate you do. You'll make the phone call or send the email or have that conversation, and you really don't have any choice. Whereas if you can just notice thoughts arise and emotions arise and let them play out their half-life, which is very, very short, it's actually impossible to stay angry or fearful for more than a few moments without resurrecting it again with more thought that you aren't noticing. So it really is, it can become the difference between being angry all day long and being angry for 10 seconds, right? Which is, in terms of the effect on your life and your relationships, it's an enormous difference. So mindfulness, which I'm introducing now, is a tool by which you can make that choice. So having said a little more about it, I'd like you to close your eyes again. And just pay attention to the sensation of gravity pulling you into your seat. And then notice the feeling of breathing. Notice the breath wherever you feel it most clearly, either at the tip of the nose or the rising of your chest or abdomen. Just pick one spot and feel the next inhalation from the moment it appears to the moment it stops. And then the exhalation. And there's no need to control the breath. Just let it come however it comes. It can be shallow, it can be deep, it can be slow or fast. And as you notice the sensations of breathing, also notice all those moments where you're perceiving something else, like a sound or a sensation elsewhere in the body. Just let everything that appears articulate this space of conscious awareness. Everything is just announcing the fact of consciousness in this moment. And the moment you notice that you're thinking, just notice the thought itself, whether it's an image or the sound of language. What happens to it? Where does a thought go when it disappears? As we begin to train in this practice, it becomes obvious very quickly that nothing is outside of it. So there's nothing you could notice that's not an appropriate object of mindfulness. So for instance, if any mood or emotion is present, even the feeling of sleepiness or restlessness, you can take that too as an object of awareness. Just what is sleepiness? Where do you feel it in your face? The goal here is to pay close enough attention to anything that appears in consciousness to get past the conceptual layer, the thoughts you have about it, and just nakedly feel it or observe it as it is, as energy in the body, as an image. And it's natural to feel that you're paying attention from some place, that there's a center to consciousness, very likely in your head. Most of us feel like we're behind our eyes and that attention is being pointed at other objects like the breath or sounds or sensations in the body from this place in the head. But pay more attention to that. Okay, the feeling of having a head, this is also just a sensation that's appearing in consciousness. Everything you can notice, sensations in the body, the breath, the sensation of having a face or a head, all of this is appearing in this open space. So as an exercise here, as you continue to notice sounds and sensations, I want you to consciously think a thought. I want you to think about something that is bothering you or worrying you. Something maybe in the future that you're anxious about, or something in the past that you don't feel very good about. Bring something to mind that you don't like. And just notice the mechanics of this. First of all, what is this thing, this thought? It's this intangible appearance in consciousness. It's an image. And how is it that it kindles this emotion, whatever it is? Anxiety, doubt, annoyance. Pay close attention to all of this as a change in just the energy of experience. And now bring your attention back to the feeling of just sitting and the sensation of breathing. And now I want you to think of somebody who you love, somebody who you have an uncomplicated relationship with. Just imagine that person incredibly happy, the happiest you've ever seen them. Imagine this person with a big smile on his or her face. And just notice how that changes something about the character of your mind. Notice that change in state. And notice that too subside. And the moment you notice that you've wandered off into thought, just come back as though it were the first moment of this practice, without judgment. Just relax back into perceiving raw sensation. The feeling of breathing. Each next sound. Okay, now gently open your eyes and just stare into the space in front of you. Just notice that this field of color and shadow is also an appearance in consciousness. With your eyes open, you can still hear sounds and feel sensations in your body. And this visual field is not outside of you. It's not outside of your mind. It's not in any sense outside of consciousness. And again, it is the same place where you're thinking and feeling. And there are ways to see that. For instance, you can superimpose a thought on your visual field. Just picture the Sydney Opera House in miniature in front of you. Just flash that image as though you had a model of it. Something appears in that space, and that is the same space in which your visual field is appearing. So we're just going to do this for, let's say, 2 more minutes. And for these last 2 minutes, just begin again as though this were the first moment. Just rest your mind wide open. Simply be the space in which sounds and sensations, thoughts and emotions appear. If your eyes are open, notice that your visual field is shimmering with its own kind of iridescence. That the space in front of whatever you're looking at looks like something. That you see that space. There's a quality of light. There's change in that space. Now briefly close your eyes and stare into the darkness of your closed eyes. Notice that it's not so dark. It too is shimmering. Your visual field is there all the while with your eyes closed.